and let us all do we can to build a better future. All right, 2024. Let's talk about it. The Democratic primary. Now, we've talked about this on the show, and we're going to probably keep on talking about it because it's going to be a entertaining clown show for us all to laugh at. Because in 2020, hey, I had the audacity to hope that maybe Bernie Sanders would be ready. I was wrong. I was so wrong on that. I actually held on to hope. Man, I will forever be made into a fool for that. That is my L that I have to live with. I really thought, Hard Lens Media, we really thought that Bernie Sanders would be ready, that he would learn the lessons from 2016. But that's not the case. Because no matter what's going to happen, the Democratic establishment will kneecap the next Bernie Sanders. And let's say Biden doesn't choose to run, even though the Democratic establishment is saying that Biden's their guy, he's going to run. The Democratic establishment will surround and protect who they deem as their nominee. They did so with Hillary Clinton. They were iffy on Biden because there was always that next person. They looked at Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, all of them. But eventually, Biden was their number one guy. And Obama made that call on that Super Tuesday. And of course, it doesn't help that Bernie Sanders was a cuck not once but twice. But there you go. I got this video here from Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. He is wrongly being censored on Twitter, unfortunately. How establishment Democrats and mainstream media continue to show democracy is only for approved candidates, because now they're using the same playbook again. So I'm not going to waste my breath on Marianne Williamson or any other Democrat that's going to run in the primary, thinking that they could somehow change the Democratic establishment. It ain't going to happen. And I have my thoughts on the Marianne Williamson campaign, because at this point, the way I view it, the way my eyes are looking at it, it's just another way to sucker people into spending their money on a candidate that's going to drop out and tell you to vote for a Democratic sellout. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Hey, Crystal and Kyle, what are you going to say to people as soon as Marianne Williamson's campaign goes?
Well, so far, the only Democrat to announce a run is self-help author Marianne Williamson. Would a Biden announcement essentially close the door for everybody else?
It would close the door for your more established candidates, for high-profile Democrats that are already in office.
Well, so far, the only Democrat to announce a run is self-help.
All right, so there you go. They're going to be doing that. That's who these jagoff politicians are. That's what they're all about. So it's interesting to see these politicians act this way, and these pundits act this way, because they're doing the same playbook that they did in 2016 and 2020. Got another video here from Case Study QB, where the Democratic Party, there's still a Bernie Sanders wing, whatever that looks like. It's a wing probably dipped in crap, but there you go. That's how I view the Bernie Sanders campaign and his legacy.
Look, in the Democratic Party, there's still a Bernie Sanders wing, and Sanders has said, I'm not going to run if Joe Biden runs. Biden doesn't run, I might. There's still that, Elizabeth Warren, Sanders progressives would like somebody different. And then each of these, whether you mentioned Cory Booker or Senator.
Remember, Cory Booker, the cuck, just said, I want to challenge the most successful president in my lifetime.
Klobuchar or Gavin Newsom, they all have fans, and all of them like to hear their names bandied about as being on the bench as plan B if for some reason Biden didn't run. But Biden is clearly not going to abdicate his power. As he wisely said, he spent his whole life looking for the White House. He ain't going to suddenly quit and say, bye, folks. I'm just going to eke out and be a lame duck for the next 2 years.
And I have to point out, for all these people talking, there's a sitting vice president named Kamala Harris who would be first in line.
Kamala Harris, 0 delegates, got destroyed not once but twice by Tulsi Gabbard on the debate stage. Kamala Harris whose campaign went belly up, who's polling even lower than Biden. But okay, Democrats. All right, you want to try Kamala again one more time? Fine, go for it. But again, I do have to ask, and this is something that people of Ohio are asking, hey, where's Biden? Where's Kamala? They got Pete Buttigieg, who only showed up there for a few days. trying to look like he knows what he's doing. And yes, we're going to be talking about Pete Buttigieg. But there you go. See, the Democrats, like I said, even if it's not Biden, they're going to have somebody. Now, Kamala Harris was a failed experiment. There might be somebody else in the Democratic establishment that might do better. I told you 2024 is going to be an interesting show. Everyone pretend to be shocked when things start going belly up. So work on your shock face. Here's mine. All right. Oh, and you know what, Anthony Melick, I'm actually going to Malachi, I'm going to give you a shout out here. K-Hive's been pretty quiet for a while now. Oh, yes. K-Hive has been very, very quiet. Very, very quiet indeed. But also, let's just be a side note, too. No matter what, the Democratic establishment is going to laugh at anyone challenging Biden. Because, again, Biden has yet to make the announcement. But here's how I know that Marianne Williamson's campaign may be a nothing burger. Just how people view her. Here's the White House press secretary mocking Marianne Williamson's presidential challenge. Which I say, good luck, Marianne Williamson. But again, my view on her campaign is just another way for people to be suckered into giving their money to the Democratic establishment when said candidate will probably bow out of the race and say, you got to support the corporate Democrat because Trump, we got to stop Trump.
During a White House briefing yesterday, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about Marianne Williamson's 2024 campaign. Take a look at the response.
The president annoyed,
Go see the White House counselor.
frustrated with Marianne Williamson for jumping in the race ahead of him. Did he want a clear field to run against the Republican nominee in 2024?
Just not tracking that. I mean, if I had a what is it called? A little globe here, crystal ball, then I can tell you. But I imagine
Crystal ball. Was she calling out Crystal Ball herself?
a ball, whatever. If I can feel her aura, I just don't have anything. I just don't have anything to share on that.
Joining us now, White House reporter for Bloomberg, Kayla Gardner. Kayla, great to see you again. So we can see the White House not taking Marianne Williamson's presidential bid all too seriously, nor do we need to. But I think it's actually telling the lack of Democratic challengers that President Biden is facing. It wasn't that many months ago that there was real concerns with his poll numbers down. They were expecting a tough midterms, that maybe there would be, for the first time in several cycles, a real intra-party challenge for a sitting president. That no longer seems to be the case. Talk to us a little bit about how the White House now views the months ahead as they ramp up an expected bid.
I think the White House is feeling very confident right now. I think the majority of Democrats are sort of lining up behind Biden and expressing.
All of them are lining behind a guy that clearly has some cognitive issues. Again, the same Joe Biden whose administration Roe v. Wade died under. If that happened under Trump, people would still be out there in the streets. But no one's out there in the streets. The same Joe Biden who's, again, nowhere to be seen when an ecological disaster took place in East Palestine, Ohio. Same Joe Biden where, his administration, the kids are still in cages. The kids are still in cages. AOC. The kids are still in cages. Oh, one other thing. We got money for war. Americans are being evicted from their homes and apartments. Small businesses are being shut down. Inflation still on the rise. Let's have democracy in the chat. Are you still paying an arm and a leg for a gallon of milk, a carton of eggs, a gallon of gas? Type 1 for, oh, don't worry, Kit. Everything's fine. What are you talking about? I'm doing fine. I believe in Biden. Type 2 is like, no, God, please help me. I'm bleeding out here. A car? What's that? I haven't used one in 40 years.
Expressing their support for him. We have seen a few people sort of raise concerns about his age at 80 years old. Other people like Joe Manchin saying that they want to see who else is going to jump into this race before they ultimately.
And of course, Jamie Teisel writes, 1, I don't have any arms or legs left. Okay. Let's see a couple of ones here. You guys are being sarcastic.
endorse. But I think it's still fair to say it's still pretty early. Biden has yet to officially announce, and there's a lot that could happen between now and then. That being said, Biden still says he intends to run. He intends to seek re-election. But I'm sure they're feeling very confident at this point. And like you mentioned, they're not really taking this challenge from Marianne Williamson very seriously.
Yeah, the timeline for the president's expected announcement seems to be slipping. Aides had suggested maybe after the State of the Union. Now maybe it's April.
Notice again, he should have made that announcement already. What's going on, folks? Are they afraid that they don't have a good cocktail concoction of drugs to boost Biden up so he knows his wazoo from the hole in the ground? Yes, YouTube, I'm trying to keep it clean for you.
Tell me that could go further to May or June. But I think one dynamic that's interesting, and polls suggest, a number of polls recently have shown that Democrats, by and large, approve of the job President Biden has done, like him personally, grateful for his time in office, and of course for defeating Donald Trump. But so many of them say they actually don't want to see him run again, with citing his age as the biggest factor. How are the
Yes, his age. He's old. Look, I've taken care of a couple of senior citizens. I know the signs of dementia and Alzheimer's when I see it. Okay? Biden's got them. He's got them. It's just a sad fact. It's the unfortunate truth. I mean, even Dianne Feinstein. Now, at least for all intents and purposes, she's not running again. Thank God. Thank God. But she's in her late 80s. And there's been numerous reports on her not knowing what's going on. Imagine that. You're a U.S. senator and you don't even know where you're at. That is pathetic and embarrassing.
The White House going to deal with what could be a real enthusiasm problem?
I think you're 100% right. And I think
Enthusiasms. God, I love that film, Untouchables.
Biden is trying to build the same coalition that helped him get elected in 2020. And the circumstances, of course, then were very different. They were facing a pandemic. They were coming out of Black Lives Matter protests. And so And
again, nothing has changed. Many questions have come up about the jab. Many questions have come up with the fact that we're spending millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions, et cetera, in this ridiculous war in Ukraine. And so much more. There's a lot of failures of the Biden-Harris administration. This is where we're ending. This is where we are at. And corporate media won't do its job. I mean, they said it quietly. He hasn't made the announcement, so they're kicking the can down the road. Sooner or later, he's got to say, hey, are you running for office? Come on, Biden. What's the delay? What's going on? I get it, the office of presidency. There's a lot of things going on there. But you would think, when the priority list, like, hey, want to tell people I'm running again, get it done. But chances are, it's something that I think we all can agree on. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes in regards to the health of good old Joe Biden. He's not a spring chicken anymore. And he clearly has some signs of ongoing Alzheimer's or dementia. That's the truth of it. We're being led by politicians who the America that they grew up in no longer exists, and they're making decisions for us, thinking that their old 1900 values are still going to somehow be relevant for us today. That's not how it works, and right now Americans need relief. And these politicians, people like Nancy, Chucky Boy Schumer, Turtle Boy Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham Cracker, Joe Biden, and all the other rest, they dance and drink because they believe you are weak. Don't forget, while Nancy might be in her 80s, she's doing a lot of insider trading. And if you ever did anything like that, you would be in jail and never see the light of day ever again.